Hey everyone, it's Tricocha here. I'm going to try a different way of doing this screen recording. I'm going to use my iPad to see if perhaps this solves our issue. So let's take a look. I'm here at the ELAC 145 class folder. This is what it looks like on an iPad, Mac, or iPhone. The previous way you saw it in the videos was when I was using a PC. So I want to make a video for our writing tools. I'm going to go to that folder. We need 2 videos today. This one's going to be about integrating quotes, MLA, and the quote sandwich. So you can take a look at this PDF and follow along. This PDF itself is a paraphrase of our online writing reference, They Say, I Say. We're taking some writing tips from the handouts I'm giving you, the packets, those energy drinks essays, and we're taking some templates, sentence templates from They Say, I Say. We have a picture that says write with confidence, using quotes, paraphrases, and academic writing. Your quotes go here in between these quotation marks. This is a presentation made by Professor David Walsh. Okay, so we're going to learn about quotes and paraphrase. Direct speech quotes. What is that? Using direct speech quotes, well, William Zinsser, the author of The Right to Fail, states or claims, if you notice, they're using the sentence templates we used for homework before. Well, he states or claims that history is filled with imminent dropouts, well-known loners who followed their own trail, not worrying about its odd twists and turns because they had faith in their own sense of direction. That's coming from page 4. Okay, so I know who said this, Mr. William Zinsser, that it's coming from page 4. It's in between quotation marks, which means he's repeating exactly what that person said. That's a direct speech quote. We have something else using indirect speech, paraphrasing. That is when you're basically summarizing. You're not repeating word for word like a computer. You're telling your version of the story. Okay, that is indirect speech paraphrasing. In William Zinsser's essay, The Right to Fail, he says that there are many infamous dropouts who followed their own path without any worrying about its curves because they believed in their own vision. Basically has the same meaning, but this writer put it in their own words, so there's a paraphrase. But it's not this person's idea. It's still William Zinsser's idea, and it's still coming from page 4 of that book. So they're referencing him. When we take a couple of quotes from The Power of Habit, we could either do direct speech, word for word. Charles Duhigg claims that the habit loop, well, we would have to take it right from the book. Maybe something like Eugene Pauly did blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then if I told you my own version of the story, yeah, chapter 1's about this guy named Eugene Pauly who was able to learn a new habit even though he had brain damage. That's a paraphrase. Okay. I would still maybe quote Duhigg chapter 1. In writing, we do a lot of direct speech and sometimes paraphrasing, but we want to make sure we're giving credit to the people who gave us these ideas and quotes. All right, using direct and indirect speech with proper MLA in-text citations. So this is a sentence template and example here. In his essay, The Joy of Reading, Superman and Me, Sherman Alexie states, we were Indian children expected to be stupid. Page 3. So he has in his, the kind of source was an essay, the title, whoever's saying it states one of those strong verbs from They Say, I Say, and then the quote. Here's another one. According to his essay, The Joy of Reading, Superman and Me, Sherman Alexie says that Everyone thought we were supposed to be ignorant because we were Indians. 3. Still coming from page 3. So it means the same thing. One is copying what they say, and the second one was making what they say, I say. A paraphrase. Well, we need to know how to quote in a good way because some people abuse the quotes. Some people do this awful thing called quote dumping, where they say, oh yeah, Professor Tricoche, Professor Walsh, Professor Warren, those people want my essay to be 2 pages and it's only 1 page. So I'm going to put a gigantic quotation that's 3 paragraphs long and then my essay is going to be 2 pages. Don't do that. We don't care about what they say. We care about what you say. And you're only using people's words and ideas as evidence to make us agree with you. Remember that. Or as evidence of an example. If I wanted to know what they say, 3 paragraphs of it, I would go read that essay or book. So you don't want to do quote dumping. Okay? You want to use quotes that are in appropriate length, a few sentences. You want them to be related to the topic that you're talking about. And you want them to be supported. You don't want them to appear out of nowhere. So that's what this presentation is going to teach us how to do. So this guy's here thinking about quotations. What does he say? But the main problem with quoting arises when writers assume that quotations speak for themselves. That's Gerald Graff, page 43 of They Say, I Say. According to Graff, 2 key strategies for integration of quotes are to choose quotes carefully, so they support your ideas in your essay and explain whose ideas they are and how his or her ideas support your point. Your point, your ideas are more important, and you're using quotes to support you. 3rd paragraph here. As Graff states in They Say, I Say, be careful not to select quotations just for the sake of demonstrating that you've read the author's work. You need to make sure they support your own argument. Remember, I told you guys I read The Power of Habit many times. I don't even remember how many times I read it. At least 5, I don't know, between 3 to 7 times. I read it a lot of times because I read it in my own life and I taught this for a couple semesters. So I know what the book says. I don't need you to just dump a bunch of quotes. But I want to see what you say and how you're going to use Charles Duhigg's words to support your own ideas. All right, so it's important to present the quotes or paraphrases that make sense and support to your support, and their meaning is clear for the reader, not just for the writer. In the book, They Say, I Say, Graff states quotations that are inserted into a text without such frame are sometimes called dangling quotations, for the way they're left dangling without any explanation. Dangling is like hanging something. We don't want to dangle. We want to explain. Professor Markley, a Purdue University English instructor, asserts that good quotation framing is like a quotation sandwich because it has a piece of bread at the top as an introduction and another slice at the end explaining and connecting it to your main idea of your paragraph and essay. This is quoted in Graff, page 44. They Say, I Say. What does that quote sandwich look like? Oh, here it is. Introduce the idea the quotation will support. Quote and cite. Explain how the quote helps support your claim. Think of the parts of a sandwich. You have the bread on top, good stuff in the middle, bread on the bottom. Introduce your quote, say the quote, and then commentary on the quote. You're going to say a little something about it. Don't just come out of nowhere. Yeah, habits are good. You can feel happy. 70% of Americans experience chronic stress. The science of happiness was so good. What? Why did that guy say 70%? I'm confused. You need to introduce whatever you're going to talk about. If you're going to link two articles, maybe you're going to use an article from the past or some other source. You got to tell us. You got to remind us. Because remember, your brain is working hard. It gets tired. It doesn't want to fill in the gaps. When we write, the best writers assume that your reader knows nothing. When we write, we want to assume the person reading it knows absolutely nothing about the power of habit, nothing about Charles Duhigg, and your essay, in a way, is like being a teacher. To teach that person the topic that you want to argue, that you want them to agree with you on, okay? You wouldn't eat a piece of sandwich without a bread on top, just like we wouldn't throw a quote out of nowhere. If you're going to use a quote, you got to introduce that guy. Like that toxic stress thing, we got to introduce it like this. Maybe, stress is a very serious problem. We know that stress can cause disease in the body. Unfortunately, and now I'm going to start my quote using a paraphrase. Unfortunately, 70% of Americans experience toxic stress. This is very alarming because that means that Americans have a bad habit of stress. Today, my essay is going to show you why we should teach students how to have healthy habits. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? I still said the same quote about 70% toxic stress. I still talked about habits, but I didn't come out of nowhere saying a random quote. Okay? Sometimes people feel nervous and they want to make the teacher happy or look really smart to the reader, so they just throw quotes everywhere. Usually, I'm going to guess it's because a student might not feel confident about their writing and they think the way they say it is better. No, it's not. The way they say it is just different. Your writing is no better or worse than somebody else. It's just different. And your writing's only going to get better by practicing it and by reading. Because when we read, we see examples of other people's writing by those sentence templates. Okay? So this is the end of my video. Please, we're always going to use a quote sandwich. And thanks for listening today. Goodbye.